Nothing says Roman like looks Scottish. Nothing says Latin like looks Scottish. Nothing says native to the sunny Mediterranean like light eyes that intensify sunlight. Nothing says native to the Mediterranean like thin lips that retain heat better. Gladiator takes place in 180 AD. By that time, Rome had reached its zenith, and by the year 300, Rome was in rapid decline and barbarians were already invading. But by 180 AD, Rome was still in tip-top shape, I think. They did hire some mercenary barbarians, but overall, there were not many blondes as a percentage, I think, by 180 AD. So it is loosely based on historical figures. Roman forces led by the general Maximus defeat Germanic tribes, bringing temporary peace to the Roman Empire. Nothing says keeps Germanics away like is himself a Germanic mongrel. You belong in Scotland. Conan the Barbarian. A suitable role for this German actor. Hercules in New York. Blue eyes. Ginger. Blue eyes again. Blonde. The Japanese of the 21st century were blonde because depictions of them show they're blonde. Look at how 100% blonde he is. That's inaccurate. He was part blonde, not fully blonde. I'm getting around to dealing with him. Just wait. God permits, I'll deal with why he is part blonde. I have the clues. I just have to find where they lead. Hold on. By the way, see my videos, Indians beat Alexander in their dreams. Alejandros Homeras. The previous were depictions of Alexander the Great by some modern eyes far removed chronologically. The following depicts the great Alexander according to the ancient Romans, far closer to his time. Latins were and are more like Greeks than any barbarians are or were racially, not just culturally. This is from a mosaic in Pompeii, which was covered in ash after the volcanic eruption, I think by Vesuvius. As you can see, the Romans didn't depict him too blonde, just part blonde, which is consistent with what is said about him by some ancient writers. Instead, they show him with a mix of black hair and blonde. The story of Alexander is full of heroic elements, making it fit for embellishment. The Alexander Romance is a term referring to collections of stories about the romantic hero. A court historian, Callisthenes, circa 360 to 328 BC, pretty close to his time, if not contemporary, wrote about Alexander. But some of the legendary material, actually that was contemporary, but some of the legendary material originally attributed to him is considered spurious by some. So it is now labeled pseudo-Callisthenes. Spurious? Historians cherry-picking the argument from incredulity fallacy also. So they believe it can't be real because it doesn't suit their narrative. Well, too bad. You haven't given it proof that it's not real. Give me a good reason to reject it. I'm not just going to take their word for it. Callisthenes labels Alexander's hair lion-colored, or as some say, tawny. For he had the hair of a lion, and one eye was blue. The right one was heavy-lidded and black, and the left one was blue. And his teeth were sharp as fangs, and he looked upon a defensive attack the same as a lion would. A mural in Pompeii depicting Alexander. Notice his hair part blonde, part black. consistent with what was said by him by the contemporary, I think it was a Greek guy. Let me check. Yeah, Callisthenes sounds Greek. And also, look at his skin. He's tanned. And he does not tan orange like Trump. He tans bronze or light brown. Although it does look a bit orange here. So the paintings were preserved pretty well because of the volcanic ash. However, this woman dyed her hair. Juvenal wrote in a satirical poem that Messalina, a Roman empress of noble birth, would hide her black hair with a blonde wig for her nightly visits to the brothel. Sed nigrum flavo crinem abscondente galero intravit calidum veteri centone lupanar. In his commentary on the Aeneid of Virgil, Maurus Servius Honoratus noted that the respectable matron was only black-haired, never blonde. In the same passage, he mentioned that Cato the Elder wrote that some matrons would sprinkle golden dust on their hair to make it reddish. Caligula, in making preparations for his so-called triumph, besides the prisoners and deserters from the barbarian armies, he picked out the men of greatest stature in all Gaul, such as he said were fittest to grace a triumph with some of the chiefs, and reserved them to appear in the procession, obliging them not only to dye their hair yellow and let it grow long, but to learn the German language and assume the names commonly used in that country. He ordered likewise the galleys in which he had entered, blah, blah, blah. Shouldn't have read that, whatever. Commodus, his hair was always dyed and made lustrous by the use of gold dust. And he used to singe his hair and beard because he was afraid of barbers. So this woman dyed her hair or is of Celtic stock like Nero. With an exception if she was truly ginger, but she probably wasn't because of her gigantic eyes, which are common in Italian. Probably just dyed her hair. Someone said redheads like Nero, claiming that they were identical to Celts. Yeah, the ancient Romans looked just like Celts. That's why they had to point out how different they looked. That makes perfect sense, you idiot. So that he has a name saying Bronzebeard, Ahenobarbus, means it was not normal for Romans to have that. His name's folk etymology is that gods changed the original black hair to bronze. Celts sacked Rome before Rome became powerful, which explains his mongrel blood features, just as Vandals explain why Tunisians can be white. He wasn't a pure Roman. According to Suetonius, as a token of their divinity, it is said that they stroked his cheeks and turned his black beard to a ruddy hue, like that of bronze. And Nero was one of the descendants. Notice that this tanned guy is similar to me, an Iberian. Someone's going to say, oh, you're brown, you can't be European, you fraud, you're an idiot. Look at Pompey. The guy is brown because he tans just like me, you idiot. We tan bronze, unlike you barbarians who tan orange. What country has the most skin cancer? Australia, then New Zealand, filled with British people, filled with Celts and Germanics who are not fit for the sun. They don't belong in Australia, they don't belong in New Zealand, and they don't belong in the Mediterranean. Latins have bigger eyes than Iberians like me, I've noticed. That's one of the differences. Their mouths are more compact. This is a real Italian. Well, I think he has black hair. But looking at his lips, more compact, his eyes are pretty big. This is consistent with an Italian of Latin stock. Giuseppe Carbonaro, voting for the blonde fraud Meloni, whose ancestral name was probably Merkel or something like that. Here's another real Italian. Nova Lectio International. Pretty big eyes, at least bigger than mine. Lips, not small, consistent with being a Mediterranean native, a real Italian. Black hair also. And then mega wrong. You're a real Italian. But he is so obsessed with the British. Why are you so obsessed with them? Why? They're just racist pirates. That's all they are. They were just followers of Iberians. That's all they are. Your ancestors and mine with Legionine Hispana humiliated the Celts. My ancestors pissed on Albion before it became England. Before the Anglo-Saxons went there, my people pissed on that land. Sylvester Stallone is part Italian. He has green eyes, I think. However, that's explained by his Khazar, Ukrainian, and half French blood. Or part French blood. Look at this propaganda. Last days of Pompeii. Depicting a guy who looks extremely British. With a woman who looks British. And there's some other guy who looks British. A bunch of Brits in Pompeii. What are they doing there? Time traveling. And LARPing. No, you don't look like a Pompeian. You don't look like an Italian. You're a fraud. This is propaganda. But this is why people believe that the Italians look blonde. Because they're depicted as blonde and people are so stupid they can't question Hollywood. That's how stupid they are. It's not just Hollywood. The so-called education system promotes this shit. If you look at their textbooks. Always propaganda. Always lies everywhere. This world's full of shit. Fake Latins. Why do I censor his nipples? Because women like to lick and look at such nipples. That's why. Fake Latins. Fake Latins. Fake Latins. Fake Latins. Brits wish they were Latin. Fake Latins. More fake Latins. Fraud. Fake Latins. Everywhere. Fake Latins. You're a fake. You don't look Italian. You don't look Mediterranean. You belong in the north. That's your native homeland. So, let's cover this term in more in parts. 6 it would be, I think. See you later, maybe.